Well, welcome everyone to Mindset Monday. My name is Denise, Zack, life coach, and I am super excited. This is our 8th podcast, and I am here with Brad Paz from Zoptic LLC. It is an athlete performance technology. It's hardware and software, if I'm correct about that. But we're going to talk to Brad today. Like those of you who've seen me before, you know that this podcast is about connecting with people who are doing amazing things, but really not just focusing on the amazing thing that they're doing, but really talking to them about how they show up to the day, what kinds of things keep them motivated, keep them passionate, but also how they get through challenges and how they work through difficult situations. Because at the end of the day, we can have all of this stuff going on that we're excited about, but if the 6 inches in between our ears isn't functioning the right way, we know that we're not showing up our best. And so I like to talk to people who are, sending out great messages and who also are doing great things out there in the world. So Brad, thank you so much for being here today. I'm just honored that you've taken the time to talk with me today. So I would love to, if you could, tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us about your Zoptic platform.
Okay. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate all you guys do for us at Game Plan U. A little bit about myself. I grew up in Western Nebraska. Went to the University of Denver. Actually became a father at the age of 20. That's a kind of an interesting fact for me. I initially started my career in finance. I worked at Merrill Lynch for about 5 years. Then I got into personal lines insurance for about the next 15. And then, in 2017, I actually got the itch to try and tackle entrepreneurship. So that's when we started Zoptic, and really it was born out of more of a passion project for my daughter, my oldest daughter. She's 26, just trying to help her get better. I spent a ton of time, I still do, with my 2 little ones on the sidelines, watching them and encouraging them, but just got the itch to try and see if there's something else I could do to help them. So what Zoptic is it's actually a video and wearable technology that will capture a detailed digital copy of an athlete's performance. And then we take that information and basically create advanced analytics as well as objective insight and deliver that to coaches. Because I think getting that information to a coach makes a significant difference, because those performance coaches have that relationship with the athletes. They have the background, the education to understand how do we use that information. So it really targets kids between the ages of 14 and 23 that are elite or have elite aspirations. So a lot of what it does is it helps with not only the performance development, optimizing the performance, but it also has a wellness play incorporated to it. So understanding, how many decelerations, how many accelerations, things of that nature. That's the kind of data that a lot of these performance coaches want now to incorporate. And I think the power is really through the coaches, right? We have a lot of wrist devices now that'll tell you what kind of day you're having. And I think those are very good, for runners and marathoners and weekend warriors, things of that nature. But ours is really specific to that elite athlete, where we want to learn more about the human.
So taking some detailed, looking at the video, right, but using some detailed technology that's able to observe what the athlete is doing and then provide them feedback so that they can improve, they can reduce risk for injury, they can, really do so much. They can, obviously perform better, all of that. So I think it's an amazing platform, and I've known you since the springtime, I think, right? It was, was it January? I'm losing time in COVID. I feel like my calendar, my internal calendar. I was talking with someone with Ashley Hart last week, and I swore I met her a year and a half ago, and it was not even a year. So I think I'm losing my sense of time in COVID. But I guess that's the worst thing that's happening. I'm not too bad, but I met you recently within the last year. But I've also been really, really watching your online presence and your social media presence, which has a really neat feel to it. It's not 100% focused on your technology, right? I mean, your business is there, and the platform is there around kind of observing how an athlete performs, and then looking at ways that you can improve and get better and reduce risk for injury and all of that. But your online presence is really from the neck up. Your online presence is about how you show up to your day, what kind of a leader you are, how you find inspiration. And so I'm curious about that piece. Are you seeing the connection, that knowing that from the neck down is really important, but from the neck up is super important as well? Just tell us a little bit about that.
It is. I think I learned with entrepreneurship, it can be a very lonely journey.
Yeah.
And, I see quite a few other people, posting inspiration, and, sometimes it just crosses my desk at the right time,
Yeah.
so it really kind of got me motivated, to try and engage, maybe if it's just helping one person who's having a tough day.
Yeah.
That's kind of, the position. I mean, I like LinkedIn just for the business aspect of it, as well. I think it's a great platform to connect and, build relationships, especially now with COVID. You don't get the in person as much,
Yeah.
but you still have to continue moving forward. But there's some great people that, like Larry Long Jr. I look forward to a lot of his
Yeah.
posts. That would be kind of someone who I aspire to be able to do things the way he does.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how it got started for
I
me.
love it. Yeah, just kind of seeing something come across your desk, knowing that it impacted you in a particular way, and thinking, I want to share that with someone else. And I 100% agree with you about Larry Long. He's got amazing energy. He's just got he's got a really neat way of connecting with people on LinkedIn. So I love that. So tell me this, has this always, I know you said that you just kind of started seeing this along the way with, things crossing your desk on LinkedIn and getting more connected to the business side of things. But was this always something that you kind of felt was important? Were you always someone who just, thought about taking a step back and reflecting on your thoughts and, what drives you and, how to be better at what you do? Is that something that's always driven you, or you feel like this is more of a newly realized?
It's probably new realized. I think when I got into this venture, as I mentioned, it can be a very lonely journey, and it really helped me to begin to look for ways to improve myself.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable. I know what I'm good at and what I'm not so good at. So figuring out ways, to do things better. But sometimes you need that push, right, to be uncomfortable, because
Yeah.
you're going to be uncomfortable doing ABC, whatever it is. And
Yeah.
sometimes you just need that push or motivation. And sometimes it's with, a presentation that I see, or, kind of like the one-liners, the two-liners. But there's quite a few people that I have in my regular feed that, I think it's just good as a reminder to stay positive, because there's no shortage sometimes of negative things out there, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So just trying to distance myself from those types of things, and try and stay positive. There's just a lot when you take on a venture like this, which I'm sure all the founders understand and know. And there's a variety of things to do, to get through that. Everybody's different. So I'm always trying different things.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think you're right. There are a lot of pieces of being an entrepreneur that can feel very lonely, and also burdensome, because you're kind of carrying the weight of an entire company. Even if there's only one other employee or you are the only one, it's still a pressure to perform, to be successful, and to have everything together. And if you don't have it together, figure out how. to get it together. So I totally see that, and working with all the founders that we have over the last year or so, a little bit more than that, have definitely noticed that theme, that there's just a lot of pressure. And founders, I find, they're not the person who's going to, turn off their phone at 5 o'clock and then wait till the next morning to get up and go. It's kind of 24/7, and it's constant. So that in and of itself can cause a lot of stress and worry and just, sense of being overwhelmed on some level. So I'm just curious, through your whole process, do you feel like it's been a pretty consistent, this is how I'm doing, this is how I'm doing it, this is how things are going? Or do you feel like there's been like some roller coasters? So usually it's like a roller coaster. There's some good times, there's some not so good times. And then if that's the case, how do you manage the not so good times?
Well, there's definitely roller coasters. I try to control the things I can control. That's number one. So a lot of it is my schedule, right? I mean, I just try and have a really succinct schedule and try to stay on top of it. As I mentioned earlier, there's a number of different things that I'll try. Meditation, those types of things. It didn't really work for me too much, but it doesn't mean I won't get back on the horse and try it again. It's constantly just finding ways to work through, the challenges.
Yeah.
One thing that is really inspiring for me is when I talk to my team, because there's usually a problem or two or challenge that I can't handle, and we jump on the phone and they've got it, and the anxiety level just goes way down.
Yeah.
So having a strong supportive team, which most of my team members, have been in startups, have started businesses, have their own businesses. So they relate kind of with the challenges.
Yeah.
I really try to do a better job of reading. I think, I get sleepy fast, but that's really something I should do more. And I try, when I catch myself maybe watching too much Netflix at night, just because it's just so relaxing, right? You don't really have to think. You can just.
Yeah.
But when I catch myself watching it too much, we have to put on that guard that'll shut it down at a recent hour. So
Yeah.
it's
Just finding things that make a difference.
it is the little things, and then sleep and diet. I mean, those
Yeah.
two things can do make a significant difference for your mental side.
I totally agree with you on that. I have, I worked with college students for the majority of my career, and faculty and staff. But working a lot with college students, their schedules, their sleep schedules, just get so disrupted all the time. And that was one of the things I just, I felt like it was like a broken record. We are not nocturnal. We're supposed to get a good number of hours of sleep per night. And studies have shown that you function worse with sleep deprivation than you do when you're intoxicated with alcohol. So, it's not this kind of kooky, corny, oh, just get some sleep. It's like your body is actually taking a rest, re-energizing itself, getting back to center so that you can wake up the next day and be as productive as possible. And then what you put into your body is what you get out of it, right? So that diet thing is really important too, because it really makes a difference in terms of your health. So those are two very simple things, but I completely agree with you.
Yep.
In terms of their importance. So let me ask you this. Was there ever a challenge that you came up against? Anything that, this could be business-wise or whatever, where you felt like this one's going to break me? I'm not going to make it through this one. I don't think I'm going to be able to handle this. And then if so, how did you work through it? How did you, what resources did you use? What were the things that you kind of leaned back on, or what help did you ask for in order to get through it?
It's kind of a tough one. Like there's so many. That's probably, I don't know if I ever get to the point though, to where I feel like it's going to break me. I mean, sure, there's days where it's like, I've got to shut everything down and just go play with the kids.
Yeah.
There are times, early on, I would say when I would get the answer no, that's tough because I would look at it as being a personal decision, and it usually isn't.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I think as far as working through it, that I just really started to get better to just move on, right? I think
Mm.
after, getting rejected or being told no, or, something in a negative connotation, isn't going to kill me, right? And you just kind of build up that tolerance, and persevere through those types of things. I mean, I guess one time in life is probably when, as I mentioned, when I was 20 and my
Mm.
girlfriend, and I had a child, there was a time, where I was pretty concerned, obviously, at that age. But after I got out of college, we split up and I actually got full custody of my daughter.
Mm.
Um, so, that was probably the toughest time personally,
Yeah.
but it was the most rewarding. So I
Yeah.
always remember back to that, that you just have to continue to persevere.
Yeah.
But I would say that that's one of
Yeah.
the things, that life lessons, I guess, that translate, is
Yeah.
that it can be really tough. I think the one thing kind of that I deal with now is um, I really want to do well for my team and my shareholders. I
Mm.
mean, that sits with me, daily. Just making sure that I'm showing up and doing the best I can,
Yeah.
because a lot of them, put in sweat equity and are taking times away from their family. I mean, that's real stuff. I understand that as well.
Yeah.
So that's probably one of the current things right now, that internally kind of wears on me.
Yeah. Keep
Um,
motivated for sure, right?
yeah, it does. It does.
Mm.
But
And
sorry, I didn't really have a great example, but
no, I think actually you gave two really, really good examples. You talked about something personal, especially when you were young, that required you to kind of go through something that you weren't, I mean, you didn't plan it, right? And it just happened. And it's like, okay, here comes life. And maybe it's a tidal wave, but maybe it's not. And it probably turned out not to be a tidal wave, but the way that you maybe were thinking about it, especially at the age of 20, right, wasn't probably the most positive, right? And you're thinking, not that, in terms of like, oh my gosh, how am I going to take care of this? This is going to be a lot. I'm really scared and I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. But what you basically said was, I made it through, and it was actually one of the best things that's ever happened to me, as having children usually is. So I think that's an awesome example. And then just the pressure again of kind of being an entrepreneur now, you kind of use some of the similar language. You said, I just wanted to do the best I could, right? Just as you wanted to do. And probably the grit and the resilience that you learned at that time was something that helped you or helps you now in terms of saying, you know what, you may not be ready for everything that today is going to bring, but I'm going to dive in head first because I've got people depending on me and I'm going to make this through. And so I think the message is similar and loud and clear. So I think it was great.
okay.
Yeah, so let me ask you this. We've got, just I like to keep it to like 20, 30 minutes, and I think we're perfect. We're almost at 19 minutes now. But if you had someone watching this today and they're struggling, trying to be an entrepreneur, they're trying to get a business off the ground, or they're questioning themselves and not really sure what next steps to take, what advice would you give to them that you think might be helpful for them?
I would say find the right people to surround yourself with. Um, that is key. You will never have all the answers.
Mm.
Um, so finding the right people, learning from experiences, which is, pretty straightforward. But also don't be afraid to get uncomfortable. That's probably one of the biggest things that I had to work through.
Yeah.
I know, as I mentioned before, I kind of am who I am, and I can't put on a costume, that even if
Yeah.
I tried, it wouldn't last very long. So just be very, open and honest,
Yeah.
right? But I
Authentic.
think, yep, very authentic. But
Yeah.
finding the right people, to be part of your business takes a lot of time, though. It's not going to be, for my team, it took a couple of years to really put together the team I wanted. So it's not going to be a short path, and just buckle in.
Buckle in and dive in, right? And I like what you said about being uncomfortable too, because what you're talking about is unknowns and risk taking. And sometimes I think people have this idea that entrepreneurs are just these wild west cowboys running around just diving in at anything that comes at them. When what I've actually found is that you all are very strategic about the risks that you take. You know what's going to be uncomfortable, but you're looking at what are my best options, who's going to help me, and which way do I need to turn right now that's going to produce the best outcome. So it's not this kind of crazy, wild, haphazard decision making. It's mitigated risk, and just staying consistent with, like you said, having the right people around you and asking for help when you need it. So I love the message. It's good stuff. If people want to get in touch with you, LinkedIn, right?
Yes, LinkedIn's the best way.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I want to thank you again. If anyone wants to get in touch with me, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can email me at denise@gameplanu.org. This is part of the Game Plan U Today podcast series. And I want to thank my awesome guest, Brad Paz, once again from Zoptic, for coming on today and being a part of the podcast. It was awesome to talk to you. Thanks again.
Thank you, Denise.
You're welcome. Take care.
Okay, you too.